There is a tree that has been worshipped, weaponized, carried across oceans, and written into the sacred text of three of the world's oldest religions. It did not need a laboratory to validate it. It did not need a market to survive. For 4,000 years, it fed empires, shaded pilgrims, and anchored the diets of peoples who understood, without the language of nutrition science, that this tree gave something essential, something that kept a body upright through famine, something that kept a civilization coherent through war. And then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, the world was handed one version of it. One flavor, one color, one shelf life, one clone, bred not for the people who eat it, but for the distance it must travel before it arrives. What was once a forest of thousands became a corridor of one. And most people alive today have never tasted the difference. This channel exists for the record, for the version of things that did not make it into the textbook or the trade agreement or the supermarket aisle. If you believe that what is forgotten is not always what was inferior, stay, subscribe, not because numbers matter here, because some things should not disappear without a witness. Now, open the ancient food files. Before you continue watching, please check the link I provided in this video's description. That way, you can verify it yourself. In the foothills of what is now northeastern India and Myanmar, in the region where the Brahmaputra River descends from the Himalayas into the plains, the tree known to science as Mangifera Indica has grown for no fewer than 4,000 years, perhaps longer. The ancient Sanskrit texts called it Amra, the Vedic scriptures placed it in the celestial gardens of Indra. In the Ramayana, the forest where Sita rested was described as an Amra grove. In Buddhist tradition, the Buddha himself is recorded as having received a grove of mango trees as a gift from a physician named Jaivaka. In the 5th century BCE, a place where he taught, rested, and healed. These are not decorative myths. They are records of dependency, of a people and a tree so thoroughly intertwined that the tree entered the sacred narrative not as symbol, but as infrastructure. The fruit itself is a drupe, a single-seeded stone fruit, like a plum or a peach, but vastly more complex in its chemistry. The skin ranges from green to deep crimson, the flesh from pale yellow to the color of a lit flame. A ripe specimen contains over 24 volatile organic compounds responsible for its aroma alone. The seed inside, the kernel, was eaten, boiled, dried, ground into flour during famines. Nothing was discarded, nothing was wasted. The tree grows between 20 and 40 meters tall, with a canopy so dense it was used as a military shelter. Its root system descends deep into laterite and alluvial soils that reject most other crops. It asks almost nothing. It returns almost everything. Mangifera indica is classified as a tropical evergreen. Its canopy persists through the dry season, providing shade and ground moisture when surrounding vegetation has retreated. A mature tree produces fruit for up to 300 years. Some documented specimens in South Asia are believed to be over 500 years old and remain productive. The tree requires no irrigation once established, no replanting, no engineered soil. It flowers once a year, between November and March across most of its native range, producing panicles, branching flower clusters, carrying up to 3,000 individual blossoms. From those thousands of blossoms, only a handful become fruit. The rest fall. The rest become soil. This is not failure, this is a system that has been calibrating itself for millennia, long before anyone arrived to measure it. In 1498, Vasco da Gama arrived on the Malabar coast of India. His fleet's journals describe, among the provisions available at the port of Calicut, a fruit of unusual sweetness carried by merchants from the interior. They wrote it down, then they tried to take it back to Portugal. It did not survive the voyage. This was the first documented collision between Mangifera indica and the systems of European trade. The tree was extraordinary, the fruit was extraordinary, but it bruised at contact, fermented within days, and arrived at the destination as something unrecognizable. For 2 centuries, European powers attempted to solve this problem. The Portuguese eventually established mango cultivation in Goa in the early 16th century, selectively propagating varieties through grafting, a technique Indian farmers had practiced for over 1,000 years. By the 1600s, the Mughal Emperor Akbar had ordered the planting of 100,000 mango trees at a site near Darbhanga, Bihar, a grove called Loch Bog. It was not an act of luxury, it was an act of territorial and nutritional consolidation. During the Bengal famine of 1770, in which an estimated 10 million people died, historical accounts from British administrators note that rural communities in regions with established mango groves experienced measurably lower mortality. The fruit was not the only factor, but it was present, and its absence, in stripped or deforested zones, was noted. The tree had, once again, marked the boundary between survival and collapse. And then the 19th century arrived with its warehouses and its shipping routes and its insistence that food behave like a manufactured product. The mango did not comply. It ripened when it chose to ripen. It softened within days of reaching maturity. Its varieties numbered in the thousands across South and Southeast Asia, each with a different harvest window, a different flesh to fiber ratio, a different response to storage. The Alfonso of Maharashtra, the Himsagar of Bengal, the Langra of Varanasi, the Kesar of Gujarat, the Kanza of Pakistan. Each was adapted to a specific microclimate, a specific soil, a specific pattern of seasonal rain. None of them were designed for a refrigerated container. The industrial food system required uniformity, the mango offered diversity. The industrial food system required predictability, the mango offered seasonality. What could not be standardized could not be scaled. What could not be scaled could not be owned. Slowly, systematically, the thousands narrowed. By the late 20th century, international export markets were dominated by fewer than 10 varieties. Today, a significant portion of the global commercial trade in mangoes is conducted with varieties selected not for flavor, nutrition, or cultural significance, but for skin thickness, firmness at harvest, and tolerance of ethylene gas ripening in transit. The tree survived. The knowledge surrounding it did not. Modern nutritional science has now confirmed, with measured restraint, what 4,000 years of human experience already understood. Mangifera indica contains mangiferin, a xanthone compound found in high concentrations in both the fruit and the leaves, which has been the subject of over 300 peer-reviewed studies documenting anti-inflammatory, anti-diabetic, and neuroprotective properties. Research published in journals including Food Chemistry, the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry, and Nutrients between 2010 and 2023 has identified measurable correlations between regular consumption and reduced markers of oxidative stress and metabolic dysfunction. The kernel, the seed, the part that was dried and ground during famines, contains stearic and oleic acids comparable in profile to shea butter, with documented application in wound healing and skin barrier function. This is not discovery. This is confirmation. The knowledge existed before the studies, it was carried in the practices of communities who did not require a citation to trust what sustained them. There is a generation, across India, across Pakistan, across Bangladesh, for whom the memory of variety is a memory of childhood, of a specific tree in a specific courtyard, of a flavor that does not exist in the supermarket version, of something softer, more complex, more briefly available, that arrived for 6 weeks each year and then was gone. Their children do not have the same memory. The courtyard trees were removed for construction, the regional varieties were displaced by commercially available grafted saplings from a smaller and smaller pool of approved cultivars. The knowledge of which variety grew in which soil, and why, and what it offered that no other tree could, that knowledge was not recorded, it was held by people who are now old, or gone. This is not nostalgia. This is the measurable contraction of a genetic library that took 4,000 years to assemble. Memory loss, here, is not personal, it is agricultural, it is ecological, it is a decision made by systems that were never asked whether they understood what they were replacing. The soils that produce Mangifera indica in its native range are under pressure that has no modern precedent. Groundwater depletion in the Indo-Gangetic Plain, the heart of the subcontinent's mango belt, is now measurable from satellite. Mean temperatures across Maharashtra, where the Alfonso grows, have risen by more than 1 degree Celsius since 1950. Unseasonal rainfall events in 2022 and 2023 caused flowering failure across orchards that had produced continuously for generations. The industrial varieties, bred for transit and uniformity, are not equipped for instability. The old varieties, the ones held in seed banks, in the memory of elderly farmers, in the neglected corners of rural orchards, were built for exactly this, for erratic seasons, for thin soils, for a world that could not be trusted to deliver what was expected. They were prepared for what is coming before anyone thought to prepare for it. The knowledge was never lost. It was growing in the laterite hills of Konkan, in the flooded orchards of Murshidabad, in the kitchen gardens of families who kept one old tree not because it was profitable, but because something in the memory of the household refused to let it go. Nature does not require permission to persist. It does not require a market, a study, or a moment of cultural rediscovery. It requires only what it has always required: soil, rain, and time. And it has always had more of that than we do. If this record matters to you, if the idea that a 4,000-year conversation between a people and a tree deserves to be preserved, then stay with this channel. Subscribe, not for growth, for the ancient food files.